Hello my friends, especially teachers, because the video for today is it's about assessment. How to assess? How do you assess? How can you assess using a table of specification? This is what we're just going to talk about today. This is Etienne, and we're just going to see different tables and mainly focusing on just a table of specification in assessment. Before just starting talking about table of specification, you can just see here we have a revised Bloom's taxonomy, and you see that a revised one has different levels, and here you see we have remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. The revised Bloom taxonomy has creating, and this is a part of higher order thinking. And here you can just you cannot just create or prepare an assessment without thinking of these levels: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. All those levels are just can or must be included in your assessment. There are some questions that we're just going to ask, and those questions are just requiring remembering. Are just going to we'll ask students to remember, to recall information, recognizing, listing, describing, retrieving, naming, finding. And there are also questions that we just require students to explain ideas or concept, interpreting, summarizing, paraphrasing, classifying, explaining. This will just go with understanding, the level of understanding of student. Now applying, you are just going to use information in another familiar situation. You are now just going to apply what you have just learned, what you have studied in a new situation or in another familiar situation. Implementing, carrying out, using, executing. The next level, we're now just going to start going beyond higher order thinking. Analyzing, evaluating, creating. Now, analyzing, just bringing information into parts to explore understanding and relationships. Comparing, organizing, deconstructing, interrogating, and now just finding. During evaluating, just think. Justifying a decision or course of action. Checking, you're just going to check. Hypothesizing. Critiquing, and here you have experimenting and judging. Now you see it is a higher level thinking. Now about creating, which is appearing in a revised Bloom's taxonomy, we're just here now going to generate new idea. Product, here we just find that students are just now going to create new products. Ways of viewing things. You can a student here can see things and start creating new things, generating new ideas, designing, constructing, planning, and producing, inventing. These are all some verbs that can just require students to create new ideas. Down here you see there is percentages. You can see the 30%, 20, 20, 10, 10, and 10%. In table of specification, we have just here we have just percentages. We don't have to take maybe 90% of questions that's remembering. Here there are percentages that we're just going to follow until the end of our assessment. All those questions that are just requiring students to remember are just counted in 30% in the table of specification. And this assessment will be standard. 20, understanding, 20%, applying, 10%. Those higher level thinking will just occupy 30% of the whole test or the whole assessment. And the whole 70% will be occupied inspired by those three levels: remembering, understanding, and applying. You see, a student here can get marks, every student can find what to do in this assessment, which is standard. Now let's start to see how we can just use table of specification to prepare our standardized assessment, our standard assessment. Let's see table number 1. Here you see this is how our table is looking like. Yeah, this is a general you can just this is a general idea of table of specification. You can just have not only 8 topics, you can have more than 8 topics. You can just have or your topics might have different periods which are that are different from the one that we just be supposing here, but the categories of the cognitive process or domains will be the same. We have always all these 6 categories: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, and writing, creating here. And here on the right side, you see you have a total number. You see there is a total number of exams, paper items, number of questions. Here you see down here at the bottom, you have the total. This is an example. You might have 20 questions, you might have 10 questions. This is a supposition, but it is drawn in this way. Let's suppose you are just now going to prepare assessment. The first question you might think, or you might just put in your head before starting creating questions, assessment, just think of how many questions do I going to ask? How many questions does my paper just going to contain? This is the first question to pose yourself in time you're just going to prepare an assessment. If it is a 20, just come and type it here in your table. Type it here before doing any other thing else. Just put here the questions that you are just supposing to put in your assessment. And if you are done, you are just now going to think of other things, but make sure the question you are just thinking are just put here. And the questions that we're going to put here will be on those questions, the number of questions we're going to prepare. Here you see there is a number of topics. This can be chapters, can be units, anything you want, depending on how you call it. These are topics that you have taught. These are different topics. This can be chapter number 1, chapter number 2, can be unit 1, unit 2, unit 3. You put here the number of units that you just want to assess on. If you have just taught maybe 5 topics, maybe 5 units, 5 chapters, only put here 1 to 5. Don't think it will be always 8. It can be 5, can be 12, depending on how many units you have just all chapters you have taught to your student. Now here you see there are periods. Every chapter, every unit, every topic has a period of time that might be taught. Maybe if it is chapter number 1, in any reason, maybe it is in English, it is in science like chemistry, it is biology, maybe the unit 1, just take your curriculum. Your curriculum has the number of periods that in which the topic or unit will be taught in. Maybe you can just find that the first unit, if it is in any lesson, it must be taught within 12 periods. The unit number 2 within 24 periods. It depends on how many periods have been assigned to the topic in your curriculum. Don't just pause this period. All those periods are just in your curriculum. Make sure you consult it and you just put it here as it must be here. And here you see we have now topics. We're now aware of what will be in topics and what we just have to put in periods. Let me now go to the next table. Here you see these are categories of the cognitive process or domain. The table number 2, you can see here you have paused topic number 1. Maybe in any given lesson or any given topic or course, maybe it is a subject like mathematics. The topic 1 has, for example, this supposition. We supposed it has maybe three periods. It must be taught in 3 periods. Here 4, here 1. You can suppose. And at the end you have to totalize. Here it is a total. There is a total. The total of all periods. If you have chosen maybe 6 topics to assess on, you add up to 6. You add the number of periods that are assigned to every topic. And then at the finally you add them. Here you see if you add this and this up to this, the last one, you have 36 periods. All these chapters, all these units, all these topics have just 36 topics. I think now we're just going to go. We are just now going together. You can see here we have 36 periods, 8 topics, and what other thing that we have just put in our table is the number of questions, which is the first one, which must be the first one to be put in your table of specification. Now, how to know how much questions I'm going to ask to my student to put in my assessment that requires remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, or creating. How to know that? There is a formula that we use. Here you see on the next sheet there is a formula. How to determine the total number of items per topics by using this formula. This is the formula that we are just going to use. We take the total number of items. The total number of items. Here we have how much items. You can see we have 50 items or 50 questions that we just want to put in our assessment. This is the number of items. Go back in the formula, times time spent or frequency per topic. Time spent. This is the number of period assigned to the topic. Here you can see, let's have an example. Have topic 1 with 3 here time, here periods is 3. It means we're just going to take 50 times 3. Let's keep on just going here. Now divide the total frequency in the grading period. The total frequency in the grading period. You see here, this is the number of items times the time spent, periods over the total frequency. You have seen here that we have just calculated after putting all periods of all topics or of all units or chapters. After totalizing, this is the number that we're just going to put there. We are just going to divide here. You take the number of items. If you're just going to ask 20 questions, you take 20. Just take 20 because we're just going to put it on with 20 questions in your paper. Times the time spent. Maybe the unit has 6 periods. Must be taught in 6 periods. And then you divide the sum of all periods in the topics that you just have put there to be assessed on. There it is 36, but you might have another number. Maybe you can totalize the periods and you find maybe 63. It is an example. And here you just have to do it like this. Here you put equal sign if you want to calculate what's here, and hit enter to get what is there. You see I get 1.9. 1.9 is the number of questions to be asked on the topic. We'll just go next and next Finally, we just get the point. And we'll see how to round. 1.9 questions exist? No. We need to round. But here, remember here that our questions, we have just supposed we are going to put 50 questions in our paper times 3 over 36. 3 is the number of periods, here you can see. And 36 is the total, the sum of all periods. And now 50, it is the total number of questions that we just wish to put in our paper. I think now you get it. If you understand this formula, it's okay, it's fine, and it's good. We're just going to be together in the table number 3. You can see it. I have now calculated all questions to be asked using that formula. You remember that? I have explained the formula. Periods, number of questions, and here the total number of periods. You can see. And after calculating, you can see here how many here the number of questions to be asked on every topic. You can see how did I obtain this? I took 50 times the number of periods over the total number of periods. And this is what it means. Let me go next. Here you can even calculate. If you have here your top 6 topics, 12 topics, you can just do it this way. Remember here to put the number of periods that are assigned in your curriculum. Now let me just move to the period to the next table. You can see here I have 4.16. Now we're just going to round. We're just going to round those number of questions. 4.16 questions exist. How can you prepare the 4.16 questions? We round it. Here just we take 4, and 5.55 we take 5, but you can even here take 6 if you want. You can here put a 6 and round it. 1.3, let's keep it right this way. Here 8, you can see, you know how to round. 9.7 is too much. 0.7 is too much. It's now 10. 6.9 it's 7. 11.11 it's 11. 2.77 here this is 3. Can round it to 3. And here you can now here see we have just here rounded everything. If you just totalize, this is the total. The total of all those questions must not be greater than 50. Remember, these are the questions to be posed on each topic. On topic number 1, we found 4 questions. If you add this, you can see you have 49.96, which is less than 50. If you add this side, here remember that here had 5. If I just take here have 5, and if you just add all these items here, you will just get 49, which is less than 50, and you must have 50. The sum of here must not be less than 50 or must not be greater than 50. What to do next? You just have to adjust. How to adjust? You can just add questions to reach 50 if the total here is less than the number that you have posed here, or you can subtract a question if the number is greater than 50. Using your experience, you can find where to add a question or where to subtract a question. Maybe you see here I have one question. I can maybe say, one question for the whole topic, while other topics have 3, 5 to 11 questions. can just say it's not possible, even if it is depending on the period, number period, and the period I'll just assign it depending on the content. Here I can just take, here I can here put it 2 because they have to have very few questions. This is what I call adjustment. Or can just round this to 6. But this one which has only one question, I can just think of it and put 2. Let me show you how to adjust. Adjust or balance by either adding or subtract any of the topic's totals so that the sum will amount to the desired number of test items. If you have 50 questions to be put in your paper, if you have 20, the number of questions that you found there to be asked on every topic there must not be greater than 20, must not be greater than 50. You just refer to the number of questions you have just supposed to put in your paper. Let me go to the next table. Table number 5. Here you see I have adjusted. Here put 6, but I can just keep 5 and here put 2 if I want. Because this topic has only one question, I can just think of adding one question instead of putting the question here. This is adjustment. You have seen now here I have adjusted everything. Now the total here is 50, which is equal to the number of questions I need to put in my paper. Now, let me go next. Scatter the items per topics per domain. Determine the number of items per complexity level of cognitive domain. In this case, remember that we have 30, 20, 20, 10, 10, 10. You have seen the distribution of these percentages. Remembering what we have in this level or in this domain, you remember here what we had. Remembering the percentage, I think you remember this from the beginning. This is the percentage that I'm talking about that we're just going to use to scatter our assessment here. Let me just show you. 30, 20, 20, higher order thinking, 10, 10, 10. I go to table 6. Now we are just going to put the percentages. Here are percentages. You put the percentages that we have had from the beginning. 30 for remembering, 20 understanding, 20 applying, 10 analyzing, 10 evaluating, and 10 creating. You can see that the higher level thinking has very few questions because all students are not able to do this. Some can just deal with remembering questions, understanding, applying, but few of them, you find few of them in your class that are just going to create, that are able to evaluate, and that are able to analyze. Let me now here go next. You can see how did we find the number 15 here, 10, 10, 5, 5, 5. And remember that in time you add this number 15, 10, 10 up to 5 will not be greater than 50 questions. Now this is the number of questions that we're just going to put in your paper. 15 questions will be located in remembering category. Only 10 questions will be here in understanding. You cannot exceed this number. How did we find this number? Here you see there is a percentage, 30%. 30% of what? This is 30% of 50 questions. Let me try to calculate. 30%. The percentage that we're just going to use is there in your distribution. This is 30%. This is 30% of what? Of 50 questions that we are just going to put in your paper. This is 30%. You take here your questions, the number of questions sums 30%. You divide 100. This is 15. It is very simple mathematical. You can calculate this. It is 30% of 50 questions that we're just going to put in in your paper. And here you find 15. And this is 15 that is here. If you do to 20%, you'll find 10, 20, 10. For 5, you just find, for 10%, you find 5 questions. And this is the total number of questions that will be requiring and rising in your paper. Remember this. Now let me just go to to allocate. How do I going to put 50 questions here that are asking remembering? Let's just go to the next sheet. I go here, allocating. How to allocate questions on the basis of your experience. Analysis start allocating the items with respect to the total number of items per domain. This is what I told you. The total number must not be exceed the total number of questions that I just assigned here. If it is 15, you cannot just go beyond 15. And remember that you can also just compare this number and this number to the right. These numbers here. I cannot have exceed 15, but also the number in this row. The number of questions in this row might not exceed 3, might not exceed 11, might not exceed 7 questions, might not exceed 10. You can just totalize this line this way, 10 questions, and this way, 15 questions. This is how we just deal with table of specification. Now let me just going to show you how to do this. Let me show you how to do this. It is suggested that the order of complexity from creating to remembering. You don't have to put equations if you have a table like this one. Here you see having this, how many questions do I have here? This is 4. Let's suppose I just want to put 4 questions in this row for unit 1 or chapter number 1. I don't have to exceed 4 questions. Let me just put 1, 2, 1, and here 1. How many questions do I have? I have here 4 already. And this is not what we are just going to do. We are just going to do the opposite. We don't start from remembering to creating. We start from creating to remembering. You just have to start just putting questions from this level, from creating, because anytime you put questions from here, you risk to miss the question that must be put in creating. Just start from here, so that every unit will just have some questions about creating or about high level thinking. This is what we're going to do during allocation. It is suggested that the order of complexity from creating to remembering is not altered. You don't have to forget that. Let me just go to table number 7. What do I have here? You see here I have questions, 4 questions. I just make sure that I have 5 questions here to this bottom, and I will not exceed the number of 4 questions in this line. But I have started from creating. Here I put 1. Here I have also put here 1. I put 1 here, I put 1 here, I put 1. I have jumped. You can see I've jumped. You can jump, but make sure that even if you jump some lines, some rows here, the number of questions that you put in this line might not be greater than 5. And the number of questions that are going to be put in this first topic, for the first unit or first chapter, first topic, must not be greater than 4. You can see now having the idea of what I'm doing now. Let me just go to the next table. Here I have 5. Now I'm done with creating. And every topic, most of the topics here have questions about creating. Because I have 5 and have now 8 topics, it is clear that every topic will not have a question about creating, because there might be 8 questions, and here I have to put only 5 questions. Now let me go to the next table. Now I'm just going to put questions about evaluating. Remember that the questions here must not be greater than 5 to this level, and it is clear that I'm not just going to start from the top to bottom every time, because here I have jumped here, and for this next level, according to your experience, you can just feel it. If you have jumped this and this one will not be jumped, maybe make sure that you put something now to this level for evaluating. I put here 2 questions because here I have here one, and let me put it 2 about evaluating, because I have no questions about creating here. And then you allocate, but don't exceed the number of questions. Here this must be 5, and you are putting questions just thinking of the number of this row. All laws you have to respect. The number final will not exceed 5, and the number final here in the column must not exceed 5. And it is 5 for me because I've chosen the questions, 50 questions, but for you it will not be maybe 5, depending on the number of topics, the number of questions, and the number of periods that we have just here you have. I go to the next table number 9. You see now analyzing, you can see I put questions, and if I have jumped here, I can put some questions here, 2 to 1, and you see I start increasing the number, 2 to 1. You can see I go next. Yeah, this is 10. Applying now, I put questions. Remember to check if your questions are not going to exceed 5, 4, 2. You can see. You go to the next. It's the same. You do it the same way. It's here, and just you can see, for example here, I'm supposed to put on 2 questions. It means here I'm done. 2 questions are there. If I put another question, it is going to be more than expected. Expected 2 questions. If I put another question here, it is going to be greater than 2. You can see now. I think now you get the point. You can see here you see that I jumped, but for the rest remembering, here you can see I'm just completing. For the first row it must be 5, 4. This is 1, 2, 3, and here 4. You check everything. If it is 11 questions, you see that's why you have 5 questions on remembering category. And you can see now this is the end. Now all questions here are now disputed in the way they must be disputed according to the cognitive process of Bloom taxonomy. Guys, this is all about table of specification, and I think you get the point. And now you can just now prepare a standard paper, a standard assessment. This table of specification is very important when you are assessing. It's very, very important when you are assessing, because now here your paper, your assessment will have all the mains, and are now distributed in the way they might be distributed. Friends, teachers, educators, I think now you get the point. Prepare a very nice assessment that are just reflecting to this level of understanding, a level of remembering, applying, rising, evaluating, and creating. Friends, see you next time.